Hey, Henry here from Xbox On, and welcome back to our series of in-depth looks at every aspect of Xbox Series X. To make sure you're completely on top of the next generation, hit that subscribe button and make sure you've hit the bell icon for notifications. On the agenda today, we've got something that sounds like one of the simplest features of the Xbox Series X, but it could mean a surprisingly big change for your gaming habits. Yep, I'm talking about Quick Resume. If that name sounds familiar, it's because this is an evolution of a feature available on Xbox One. You know when you turn off your console, and then when you fire it back up later, you can jump back into what you were playing right where you left it. Quick Resume is like that, but for multiple games at once. It's all made possible thanks to the Xbox Series X's solid-state drive, or SSD storage. A traditional hard drive, like the one inside your Xbox One, works by reading and writing data onto a spinning disk. But an SSD is, well, solid. This means the console doesn't need to wait for the drive to spin to the right bit. Its contents can be read much, much faster, like potentially as much as 40 times faster. Combine that with the Xbox Velocity architecture, which is a new set of tools that mix hardware and software to improve how the Series X handles storage, and you've got a console that can use its SSD in brand new ways. Ways like Quick Resume. How this works, well, the quick version at least, is that when you leave a game, it caches the current system RAM onto the SSD, where it can easily grab it again later on. And that means that you can move to another game and be able to jump back in at any time, seamlessly and near instantly. It's a bit like making a roast dinner. You make a start on the potatoes, you stick them in the oven to keep warm while you get the stuffing ready, and then when it's time to get back to the potatoes, there they are, ready and waiting, no progress lost. In this analogy, you're the console, and the oven is the SSD, and the RAM is those tasty roast potatoes. Okay, so maybe I'm just a bit hungry, but the analogy works. Kind of. The important thing is, according to Digital Foundry, when it tested out the Series X, it took around 6.5 seconds to switch between backwards compatible Xbox One games that were running on the console. In other words, it took me longer to tell you that fact than it will take Series X to jump between games. Quick Resume will let you suspend and switch between a minimum of 3 games at a time on the next-gen console, which is pretty perfect given that Microsoft's research shows most Xbox gamers play 3 to 4 games a month on average. So while we all wait for Series X to land, start thinking about what game combos you can get going. A trifecta of classic shooters maybe? Or more of a sampling platter approach, so you can go from racing to dungeon crawling to platforming, like a sort of gaming finger buffet. Okay, that might be the hunger talking again. But anyway, 3 is the minimum for Series X titles, but the number of games you can have suspended at once should get even bigger when dealing with games that use up less memory, like backcompat titles. So there's no longer any need to choose just one game to play. You'll be free to flit around to your heart's content. So, for example, let's say you're in the middle of a Gears campaign and a friend pops up on Xbox Live wanting to play a quick session of Fortnite. With Quick Resume, you wouldn't have to make the tough choice between pals and progress, or push on to the next checkpoint and risk missing out on the first round of multiplayer. Or maybe you just fancy dipping into Forza for a quick lap, or want to cool down between intense FIFA matches with a more chilled out story game. The possibilities are pretty much endless. Oh, and one other thing that's great about Quick Resume, because the game data is all being stored in the SSD rather than the RAM, it'll actually stick around after you turn off your console, or even unplug it. One of the Xbox Series X testers apparently left his machine unplugged for a week. He did a system update and was still able to jump right back in without so much as a loading screen. I mean, that's the dream, right? Turning off your Xbox because, let's say you can't handle trying that one boss fight again, not something that's ever happened to me, obviously. And then even if it's weeks later before you're ready, being able to get right back to the fight without losing a moment of progress. On the face of it, Quick Resume is such a small addition, but it's an essential part of the Series X's dedication to letting you play games quicker with less waiting time. After all, there's nothing worse than finally sitting down to get stuck into some games and then having to spend an age fiddling with stuff that isn't actually gameplay. If you want to find out more about the other ways the console is tackling that problem, then make sure you check out the rest of our in-depth videos on the Xbox Series X. But before you do, hammer that like button and let us know what part you want to learn more about down in the comments. Oh, and in case that earlier mention of resuming games on Xbox One has you wondering how that works, here's a little bonus tip just for you. Just make sure you've ticked the option for instant on in your power and startup settings, and of course, make sure you don't turn your console off at the wall or unplug it between sessions. We're not at the next gen yet. Just a little bonus tip there to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!